तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोर्श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Welcome everyone for our youth program, Saturday youth program. So last week we discussed different yoga systems. What is the definition of yoga? Basically yoga means, to the Sanskrit word, it comes from the root word yuj, which means to link or to connect. So yoga means it is a process through which we can establish our lost relationship with Krishna. And also we discussed 6 categories of human beings, starting from the law abiders, the law breakers, the lowest among all, who are not interested in pious activity. They are just interested to enjoy their senses, and they are sinful basically. They do sinful activities. But after that, the next level of human beings are a little advanced. Although they want to enjoy this material world, they perform different rituals performed in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedic literatures, and thus they enjoy their senses. So these are also called as Sakama Karmis. That means, Kama means desire. They have desire, and for that they follow certain things mentioned in the Shastras. So a step ahead comes Karma Yogi. So Karma Yogi means Nishkama. Nishkama means he is not attached to the fruits of his results. Like we saw, generally people say that they are also performing work, and they say work is worship. But for it to become worship, or for it to become yoga, they have to give the results to Lord, which they don't do. And before that, the work should be sanctioned by the Shastras. Any work can't be said as work, like Krishna tells that exact words in Bhagavad Gita. It is karmanyevadi karaste. You have the right to perform karma. So in this context here, karma means, what Krishna is telling is prescribed activity. It is not any activity. Like one can't say, oh, I am a butcher, but still my work is karma. One can't connect that to Lord. And then ahead to this, so we see there are Jnana Yogis. So one step above the Karma Yogis. So Jnana Yogis means they basically try to understand absolute truth through the method of negation. So neti, and they try to understand Lord. Generally they read Upanishads, and they come to conclusion that Lord doesn't have form. So we discussed also that how their path is filled with difficulties, as Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita 12.5. Klesho adhikartarastesham avyaktasakta chetasam. So klesham adhika means they face a lot of difficulties in the process, because they have to meditate on nothing. They don't have any engagement for their senses. So it's a difficult path basically. And then Ashtanga Yogis, wherein the yogi, it is a method of controlling mind through physical exercises, physical postures, asanas and pranayama, finally aimed at focusing one's mind on the Supreme. And after this Ashtanga Yogis comes the Bhakti Yogis, or the process of Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is, as we discussed briefly last time, it is a very joyful process of serving the Lord, basically engaging our senses in serving the senses of Krishna. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. So bhakti means very easy it is to engage. Rishikesha means our senses, and Rishika means senses, and Isha means he is the owner. So Lord Rishikesha, he is the owner of our senses. So we engage our senses in the service of his senses. So this is in the service of him. So this is Bhakti Yoga. So to define Bhakti Yoga, it is a selfless, ecstatic process of devotional service. Means it is very first thing is there is no personal ambition in doing bhakti, and second thing is it is very joyfully performed. We discussed this last time that how even at young age, of course we are not so young, like we complete engineering and we join, so we have taken up to this process, but actually bhakti yoga is performed from childhood and in a very joyful manner. For instance, in our kirtans, when we glorify the Lord, even a child can take part and be happy. So this we discussed how bhakti yoga is it is very joyful process. So today we'll discuss it more. So basically how there are 9 processes through which we can serve Lord, described by Prahlad Maharaj, and how bhakti yoga is the topmost yoga system. These 2 points we'll discuss. So bhakti yoga is described by Prahlad Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam 7th canto. So he tells Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. So here 3 processes are told. First, there are 9 as I told. First 3 are Shravanam, means hearing the pastimes of the Lord, the names of the Lord. Second is Kirtanam, describing the Lord or chanting, like you all had come here and you all chanted with us on the beats. So this is chanting, and then remembering. So here if you see Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, whose names we have to listen, whose names we have to chant. It is basically Vishnu's. So we can't say we will chant the names of Ganesha or Kalki or other gods and then say that, oh, this is also bhakti. No, it is exclusively meant for Krishna. So these are 3. So Shravana means, like as you all are listening now, so description of bhakti yoga. So we listen from devotees. So this is a standard process in India. If you see, few years ago, maybe some 30 years back, 40 years back, people every day used to listen. So this is Shravanam. Then Kirtanam. So we describe what we hear, like I am describing, or we may chant the holy names of Lord. It is Kirtanam. So there are different kirtans, Nam Kirtan, Leela Kirtan, etc. And then there is Smaranam. Smaranam means remembering the Lord. So this is a next thing. Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam. So next Prahlad Maharaj says Archanam. Archanam means it is worshipping the Lord. Like we have deities in the temples and we worship the Lord. And the next one is Pada Sevanam. That means to serve the Lord's lotus feet or to use our feet in Lord's service. Then next is Vandanam. Vandanam means offering prayers to the Lord. Then it is there is Sakyam. Before that is Dasyam. Dasyam means to serve the Lord, to do service of the Lord. Then it is Sakyam next. Sakyam means to serve the Lord in the mood of friendship. Then finally Atma Nivedanam. So Prahlad Maharaj tells after this verse, Iti pumsarpito Vishno bhaktis chan navalakshano kriyete bhagavat adha tanman uditam uttamam. So he tells kriyete iti pumsarpita Vishnu. So when it is these 9 things are offered to Lord Vishnu, then it is bhakti. And it is one who does that, he is a most learned person. So we can see one who does chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he is most learned according to Prahlad Maharaj, according to Shastras. So these are the 9 processes. So according to Shastra, one can perform any one of this process and attain perfection. And there are many examples for these. For each limb, a particular devotee has attained perfection through it. For instance, we can discuss one by one. First is hearing. So hearing, Parikshit Maharaj, if you all see in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is narration that how he heard Srimad Bhagavatam with rapt attention for 7 days and 7 nights. So he attained perfection through that. So we may find difficult to sit for a few minutes, but Parikshit Maharaj heard for 7 complete days. And then Shukdev Goswami, he is known for speaking, that is Kirtanam. So he also spoke continuously for 7 days and 7 nights, and he attained perfection. Then Smaranam, Prahlad Maharaj, he used to always meditate on the Lord. When Lord Narsimhadeva asked Prahlad Maharaj, "Is your God in this pillar?" He said, "Yes." And then later he attacked Hiranyakashipu attacked that pillar, and then Lord Narsimhadeva appeared. So actually there at that particular moment, Prahlad Maharaj was seeing Lord there, and he was remembering the Lord. So like this, Prahlad Maharaj always he used to remember the Lord whenever he was in difficulty. Not only that time, every moment he used to remember Lord. And then Archanam means to do deity worship. So it is told in Bhagavatam that Prithu Maharaj, he was known for this, for Archanam. And then Vandanam. So again in 10th canto it's explained, Akrura, he was known for offering very nice prayers and obeisances to the Lord. And then Dasyam we have famous example of Hanuman. So Hanuman served the Lord in his fight against Ravana, and Rama thus won over Ravana. So Hanuman is one very nice example for rendering service. And then we have for Sakyam. For Sakyam, before that comes Pada Sevanam. Lakshmi Devi, if you all see, she always massages the lotus feet of Vishnu. And Sakyam, that is friendship, Arjuna is known for that. And finally, Atmanivedanam. Atmanivedanam means offering everything, whatever belongs to us, our mind, body and words to the Lord. So Bali Maharaj, we see Bali Maharaj, how he promised 3 steps, and in 2 steps, Vamana Deva or Trivikrama, Lord Trivikrama, he covered the entire universe. Then with 3rd step there was no space, then Bali Maharaj offered himself. So this is one example of Atmanivedanam. So we can do any of these processes, but especially in Kali Yuga, chanting is mostly recommended, along with hearing, so which all are doing. And also we should do all these 9 processes, and the example is set by Amrish Maharaj. Amrish Maharaj was an emperor of the whole world, and it is told very beautifully that how he engaged all the senses in the service of Lord, starting from the mind. It is told in Bhagavatam, Savai Manah Krishna Padara Vindayor Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanuvarnane Karor Harer Mandiramarjanadisho Shrutim Chakarachyuta Satkatodaye Mukunda Linga Laya Darshane Drisho Tadbritya Gatra Sparshanga Sangamam Granam cha Tatpada Saroja Saurabe Srimat Tulasya Rasanam Tadarpitte Pado Harer Kshetra Padanu Sarpane Kshiro Rishikesha Padabhivandane Kamam cha Dasye Natu Kama Kamyaya Yatottama Shloka Janashraya Ratihi. So here it is told, beginning with the mind, Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindaye. So Amrish Maharaj, he engaged his mind in always thinking about the Lord. Then Shrutim Chakara Chutasat Katodaye. He used his Shruti means his ears in listening about the activities of the Lord. And then Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanuvarnane. He used his words, that is Kirtanam. And then he used his hands, it is told Karor Harer Mandiram Arjana Disho. So sometimes you may get opportunity to wash pots or to clean the temple of the Lord. So we use our hands in this. And then Pado Harer Kshetra Padanu Sarpane. Harer Kshetra means the Lord's pastimes where the Lord has performed such places like Vrindavana and other places. So, and it is also told Granam cha tat pada saroja saurabe. Granam means the sense of smell. He utilized in smelling the lotus tulsi offered to the Lord. So in this way all the senses he engaged. So Ambarish Maharaj, it is told all these 9 processes he used. So this is possible for us also, especially chanting. And as much as possible we should do other limbs also. But the most important among this is chanting the holy names. So now we will discuss the yoga ladder. So before that I would like to say one point. Bhakti yoga is the easiest, quickest and most effective way to attain perfection. So other yoga processes, they are very difficult, they are not easy and they take lot of time and they are not practical also. For instance, we discussed Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga focusing on the impersonal Brahman. It is impossible actually. We can't meditate on something void. And Ashtanga Yoga also there are difficulties. For instance, now at least it's completely not possible. Like Arjuna, he rejected the Ashtanga Yoga system 5000 years ago. But now it is not at all possible because first condition Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita is you have to go to secluded place, Sucho Deshe. And even if it is so, even if someone practices, so till one achieves perfection there are many obstacles. So it is not practical way to connect to the Lord. So now we will discuss about the yoga ladder. So this is basically our discussion that how Bhakti Yoga is the topmost yoga system. So you can show this picture. So this picture you all are seeing, this chart. So this shows that how Bhakti Yoga, it is at the top. So yoga is compared to a ladder. So there are different steps on a ladder, or they call rungs. So when we climb step by step, right? One step, another step, like that. So here it is told there are how many steps here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps. So first is the lawbreaker. Lawbreaker means he is the sinful person who doesn't follow any shastras. Then gradually he may somehow come to realize that what he is doing is not good, and he may start following shastras. He may become a karma kandi, but still maintaining his desires for material enjoyment. Then he will come to karma yoga. So like that, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. So it is basically, if you see, these are different steps on the ladder. So Bhakti Yoga is the perfection, or it is the highest yoga system. So that means we are supposed to climb this ladder. Generally there is a misconception prevalent in India that all paths lead to the same goal. Whether you become a karma yogi or a jnana yogi or ashtanga yogi, Krishna has given all these different paths finally to come to him. But actually it is not so. Finally we have to come to Bhakti Yoga. So that is the highest stage of perfection of a human being. So one may be as a karma yoga, but that is not perfection, because you have not established your relationship with Krishna. So Bhakti Yoga means it is a direct process. Direct process means what? you need not do like physical exercises as in Ashtanga Yoga in the beginning. So from the beginning you are engaged in glorifying the Lord, like you all are accustomed to chanting the Lord's name, you all are being taught. So it is a direct process, and also it is independent. Bhakti Yoga doesn't have to take help of any other process, it is self-sufficient. As we discussed in Karma Yoga, what the yogi has to do, he has to offer the results to the Lord. It is just but a tinge of bhakti in that actually. So whenever Lord is involved in any transaction, you are offering some fruit, the results of your activities to the Lord, then what happened? It becomes Bhakti Yoga actually. So Karma Yogi also, there is some limb of Bhakti Yoga in that. And Jnana Yogi, he also tries to understand the Lord through the statements of Upanishads. So there is an aspect of Bhakti Yoga. And again in Ashtanga Yoga, the Samadhi stage, finally he has to focus on the four-handed form of Vishnu. So which is Bhakti Yoga ultimately. So without Bhakti Yoga, none of these practitioners can advance. But Bhakti Yoga is completely independent and self-sufficient. Another point is all the different rungs are different progressions made on the path of Bhakti Yoga. Actually yoga means it is Bhakti Yoga only. So sometimes people, when we distribute Bhagavad Gita, they some of them who have read Bhagavad Gita already, our Bhagavad Gita as it is, they say that your spiritual master always he speaks about Bhakti Yoga, whether it is in in third chapter where Karma Yoga is discussed, or it's in 6th chapter where Ashtanga Yoga is discussed, or in 13th chapter where Jnana Yoga is discussed. They have this objection. But actually we know that yoga means it is Bhakti Yoga. Why it is so? Because yoga means the establishing our relationship with the Lord. So one may say Karma Yoga here, but actually it is Bhakti Yoga mixed with some action, some desires, some personal desires. So this is also Bhakti Yoga only, Jnana Yoga means, but the element prominent here is Jnana, knowledge. In Ashtanga Yoga the element prominent is Dhyana, meditation, but Bhakti Yoga means selfless service to please the Lord. So like that we can see different steps also, like especially from here there is some tinge of Bhakti Yoga, and it is actually Bhakti Yoga with some impurities, it is not pure. So actually yoga means it is Bhakti Yoga only, as we understand from Bhakti Yoga. Just like another example, we have Himalayas. In Himalayas there are different peaks. So one is Mount Everest, one is Kanchenjunga. What is it? Kanchenjunga. So there are many peaks. So but ultimately the highest peak is Mount Everest. So similarly there might be many peaks like this. But ultimate is Bhakti Yoga. We have to come to Bhakti Yoga. That is the stage of perfection. So it is independent also. And it is so here basically these dots which are put here, these indicate that from any of these lower stages you can directly go to Bhakti Yoga. Like we are discussing a ladder. So ladder actually means it is in one sense it's a shortcut, just like you all must have played the game, what is that? Snake and ladder, in which sometime you all may climb up through a ladder, and through a snake you may come down. You may be at the 99th position, you may come to 10th position. So likewise you may start from, you may be at 20th position, you may go to 89th position. So this is ladder. So ladder means basically it is a shortcut. But more relevant another point is like it's like a lift, especially now if you want to understand elevator. Like there is a multi-story building and there are many steps. So many stories are there. So you all may walk and go for the third story, fourth story, but you all can directly take the lift. So lift means what? It is very easy and quickly you go to the highest rung. So similarly in Bhakti Yoga, it is a very quick process. So here anyone can go directly. Actually, you all can see there is indication there. So this is the indirect method. Generally, what happens over the years, one becomes perfect. One starts as a lawbreaker, one gradually advances. It may take hundreds of years or millions of years to come to Bhakti Yoga and attain perfection ultimately. But then directly one can adopt the process of Bhakti. So there you all can see that line is showing there. So that shows that Bhakti is the direct method. It is the elevator. You all can very directly attain perfection. So in this way we can understand. So yoga is basically compared to a ladder in Bhagavad Gita, and the highest rung is Bhakti Yoga. So highest perfection. So now we'll discuss basically. Now I just explained that how anyone can attain the higher stages. That is, he can attain the higher stage of Bhakti Yoga very easily. For instance, a jnani can somehow contact devotees and come to Bhakti Yoga, or even lawbreaker can do that. So the important element is he has to come in association of devotees, because in association of devotees one can directly be elevated to Bhakti Yoga. So we will discuss from Shastra different examples of human beings who were at the different stages of this ladder, and they came to the highest stage of Bhakti Yoga. So first we will take lawbreaker. So in Puranas it's explained the story of Mrigari. So you all must be knowing. So Mrigari means he was a hunter, and he was very cruel hunter. So he used to kill animals half dead. He used to leave them there itself to suffer, and lot of blood used to come, and there they used to die eventually. So Narad Muni once, when he was passing through the forest, he came across many such animals which were half killed, and he naturally compassion arose in his heart. And then he found out that this Mrigari had killed them, this person Mrigari. He came to this person and he asked him, "Who are you?" He said, "I am Mrigari, the killer of animals." Then Narad Muni, he started explaining him, he preached him, he told, "You are doing sin." He didn't know what is sin, he told what is sin, and then he was explained, and then gradually he was preached actually that these are not good things, this will lead to lot of suffering, and then he eventually became a devotee. So Narad Muni told him, just you have to sit down and chant the holy names, this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And actually if you see, he accepted that, and his livelihood also was taken care. So this is one example of a person who was the lowest among human beings. He directly became a Bhakti Yoga. And then Karma Kandis. So Karma Kandis are there. Example is there in the 4th canto Bhagavatam, that how Prachina Parishad, he was a king who used to perform different rituals to get different boons, material boons. And Narad Muni came to him. So he was also sacrificing animals as per Vedic literatures, as per the directions. So Narad Muni told him and explained him one illustrative story of another person named what is that? Puranjana. So Puranjana means he explained it's basically an allegorical story. Allegorical story means he made different comparisons and it is not real story. So basically he was explaining the life of Prachina Parishad only. Prachina Parishad, how he was doing these activities, and how Puranjana, he in the next life he suffered because of these things. So basically Narad Muni indirectly told that what you are doing is not proper. So in this way Prachina Parishad also, who was a Karma Kandi, who was attached to sense enjoyment, so he became a devotee. And then there are Jnana Yogis. The example is given about the 4 Kumaras. The 4 Kumaras, as you all know, Sometimes they say Brahma Kumaris, but we don't hear such Kumaris, the term in Srimad Bhagavatam or any of the Puranas. But we of course listen about 4 Kumaras, and these Kumaras were small boys. If you all see, they were like roaming naked. They were brahmacharis. They didn't choose to marry, although Brahma told them, and they were interested in realizing absolute truth. And they were already at that stage actually. So they were impersonalists. They were very fond of the effulgence coming from the Lord, as many people are also generally. So very easy. People like to in the beginning they begin with impersonal understanding, and Kumaras were at that stage, Chatush Kumaras. So what happened is, one day they were passing by the Vaikuntha planet. They just came in front of the door, and then they smelled the lotus which was offered to the lotus feet of Lord. So that the breeze carried that fragrance, and that went into their nostrils, and by smelling that, what happened? They became devotees. So we can imagine so how Bhakti Yoga is superior to Jnana Yoga. It attracts even those who are practicing this Jnana Yoga. Then we have example of Ashtanga Yogi, Durvas Muni. Durvas Muni, so he is incarnation of Shiva, so partial expansion of Shiva, and he is basically a Ashtanga Yogi. As we know, Ashtanga Yogis have many siddhis, and in a past time with Ambarish Maharaj, he used one of his siddhis. Basically, Ambarish Maharaj, we discussed about him, he was a pure devotee of the Lord, engaged in all the 9 limbs of devotional service. So Ambarish Maharaj, he followed Ekadashi, devotees follow Ekadashi, and next day what happens is, there is a certain time at which we have to break the fast to get the results of Ekadashi. So Ambarish Maharaj received Durvas Muni at that time, and Durvas Muni said, "Oh, I'll just take some bath and come." He went to the river, and then the time there will be certain period of time, suppose say morning 9 to 9:30. So within that we have to eat something and break the fast. But Ambarish Maharaj, he was confused now, because guest has come. Before feeding the guest, he can't eat, and at the same time, if he doesn't eat, he will not get the result of following Ekadashi. Then he consulted some senior Brahmanas, and they said, "You drink water, it is as good as breaking the fast and not breaking the fast. You will not insult your guest also." So meanwhile, Durvas Muni came, but he understood, because he was a yogi, he understood that Ambarish Maharaj has drunk water, and then he became very angry. How could you do this? And through his anger and his yogic power, he created a demon, and that demon, he thought that it will kill Ambarish Maharaj, but to his surprise, the demon was killed through Sudarshan Chakra, and that Sudarshan Chakra later started following this Durvas Muni. And Durvas Muni, there is it's nicely explained that how he ran from different to different demigods like Vayu, Shiva, and all of them, they didn't listen to him. They said that we can't do anything, you have to go to Lord Vishnu. And finally he went to Vaikuntha, and he begged to Lord, "Oh, please protect me." And Lord Vishnu also is telling, Vishnu is telling, "Oh, I can't do anything. Oh, aham bhakta paradina, I am also helpless. So you have to go to a devotee only whom you have offended." So finally Ambarish Maharaj comes to Durvas Muni comes to Ambarish Maharaj, he begs forgiveness, and then he is released from this Sudarshan Chakra. So in this way we see Durvas Muni also comes to his senses that how Bhakti Yogas are superior. He accepts that. So in this way we can see that how different yoga practitioners have eventually attained the Bhakti Yoga process. In fact, directly from their stage they have attained. But the association of devotees is important element in this. So in this way we can understand Bhakti Yoga is the topmost. We don't find any example in which a person who was already a devotee became a yogi or became a jnani or became a karmi. There is no such example in the Shastra because it's not required. Bhakti yoga is the topmost. So the destination of those who practice bhakti yoga is the spiritual world. So bhakti yoga is the perfection of life. So in life we think different things we have to attain, but human form of life we have to realize our relationship with the Lord, and the result is that we can be situated in the spiritual world. So, and in the spiritual world there are different relationships also by which we can serve the Lord. So just a minute, I forgot one point to discuss. So how Bhakti Yoga is the topmost yoga system is discussed in Bhagavad Gita 6.47. So there Krishna tells, Yoginam api sarvesham mat gaten antaratmana. So that means Krishna is making comparative study of all the yogis. So among all the yogis, Yoginam api sarvesham mat gate antaratmana. Means who is thinking about me within his mind. So it is basically indicating a bhakti yoga, bhakti yogi. Shraddhavan bhajate yoman mam same yukta tamo mataha. So Krishna is telling, so he is the topmost yogi, uttama yogi. So this is Krishna's what you call opinion, and it is the highest thing because Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, highest authority of all the Vedic literatures. So we can see this. Krishna is directly telling in this verse. Sometimes jnanis or some people say that, oh, actually this bhakti yoga is done by sentimentalists or less intelligent people, and jnanis, so they are most intelligent. But actually it is not true. As we discussed in today's class, in Bhagavad Gita clearly Krishna establishes that how bhakti is the topmost yoga system. And also there is another verse in Bhagavad Gita itself, 7.19, where Krishna tells, after many years of practice, a knowledgeable person surrenders unto me. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. So here we can see Bahunam janmanam means after many lifetimes one realizes Vasudevam sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. So Krishna very clearly establishes that the perfection of knowledge is bhakti. So after accumulating knowledge for many lifetimes, one comes to understand, yes, Krishna is the source of everything. As Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. One who understands that I am the source of everything comes from me, so he will engage in my devotional service. So this very clearly establishes that Bhakti Yoga is the highest. And coming back to the discussions, that how spiritual world is the highest destination. So in the spiritual world, there are different relationships in which the living entity serves the Lord. Starting from Shantarasa. Shantarasa means he is not active, just like there is Mridanga. So Mridanga is also serving the Lord, but it is not kind of active, it is in a passive state. Kartal, these musical instruments, then the Lord is served by different garments. So all of them are living entities in this way. This is Shantarasa. And then there is Dasya Rasa. Dasya Rasa means a servitude. So as a servant one serves the Lord. So 5 relationships are there. So first 2 we have discussed, Shanta and Dasya. Then ahead is Sakya. Sakya means friendship. Just like we have material friendship. So in this relationship also we can serve the Lord. And then there is Vatsalya, as a mother, as a father or as a mother. And then finally Madhurya. Madhurya means as a intimate lover. So all these we have different relationships in this material world. All of them are there, which we have discussed now. But all of them are temporary, and they are in connection with the temporary objects of this material world. This is not eternal. But relationship with Krishna is eternal, and it is full of bliss. So in this material world, so often these relationships end with frustration, but that is not so in the spiritual world. In especially Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, all these different relationships are discussed. So how the cowherd boys, they serve the Lord very happily. So Krishna sometimes is defeated by them, and then Krishna has to carry them on their on their shoulders. So this is discussed, how the cowherd friends, after attaining piety for millions of years, Krita Punya Punji, they attained this position after many lifetimes. This is discussed. And then how Mother Yashoda and Nand Maharaj, they also serve the Lord very nicely. They serve in so much intimacy that they forget the greatness of Lord, like Devaki and Vasudeva. So all these things are discussed in Bhagavatam 10th canto. And finally, in the reciprocation of the gopis with Krishna. So this is not material. So this is the highest reciprocation of spiritual love a living entity can do with the Lord. So generally we have our intelligence is tinged with or mixed with the understanding of man-woman relationship in this material world, which is full of nastiness. So that is not pure. So, but Krishna's relationship with the gopis is not like that. It is completely pure. So if it would have had even little kind of contamination, then great sannyasis like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya wouldn't have discussed it. So this shows that relationship of Krishna with the gopis is sublime. It is very pure. So this is the perfection of life. To go to the spiritual world, we all have a relationship with the Lord. As we discussed, yoga means to establish our relationship with the Lord. So we all have relationship which is called as Swarupa, and through Bhakti Yoga, gradually we can revive our lost relationship. And this is the goal of life. So we will briefly revise what we discussed today. So we discussed how Bhakti Yoga is the process of selfless ecstatic love for Lord Krishna. It is happily performed, and how it is highest. So there are different yogas like Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, which are different progressions to the Bhakti Yoga. That is, one may have advanced at different levels, but ultimately one has to come to Bhakti Yoga, and one can even directly come from any stage. Even a lawbreaker like Mrigari can come to Bhakti Yoga, or great transcendentalists like Kumaras and Durvas Muni, they can come to Bhakti Yoga through the association of devotees. And finally, the devotees' goal or their destination is the spiritual world, where one can happily serve Krishna in different relationships. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.